quote, tam immensus aliarum super alias asservatarum legum cumulus, that they were computed to be many camels' loads by an author who preceded Justinian. This was in part remedied by the collection of 3 private lawyers, Gregorius, Hermogenes, and Papirius, and then by the Emperor Theodosius the Younger, by whose orders a code was compiled, A.D. 438, being a methodical collection of all the imperial constitutions then in force, which Theodosian code was the only book of civil law received as authentic in the western part of Europe till many centuries after, and to this it is probable that the Franks and Goths might frequently pay some regard, in framing legal constitutions for their newly erected kingdoms. For Justinian commanded only in the eastern remains of the empire, and it was under his auspices that the present body of civil law was compiled and finished by Tribonian and other lawyers, about the year 533. This consists of 1. The Institutes, which contain the elements or first principles of the Roman law, in 4 books. 2. The Digests, or Pandects, in 50 books, containing the opinions and writings of eminent lawyers, digested in a systematical method. 3. A new code, or collection of imperial constitutions, the lapse of a whole century having rendered the former code of Theodosius imperfect. 4. The novels, or constitutions, posterior in time to the other books, and amounting to a supplement to the other code, containing new decrees of successive emperors, as new questions happened to arise. These formed the body of Roman law, or Corpus Juris Civilis, as published about the time of Justinian, which, however, fell soon into neglect and oblivion, till about the year 1130, when a copy of the Digest was found at Amalfi in Italy, which accident, concurring with the policy of Romish ecclesiastics, suddenly gave new vogue and authority to the civil law, introduced it into several nations, and occasioned that mighty inundation of voluminous comments with which this system of law, more than any other, is now loaded. End of section 9. The canon law is a body of Roman ecclesiastical law, relative to such matters as that church either has, or pretends to have, the proper jurisdiction over. This is compiled from the opinions of the ancient Latin fathers, the decrees of general councils, the decretal epistles and bulls of the Holy See, all which lay in the same disorder and confusion as the Roman civil law, till about the year 1151, one Grecian, an Italian monk, animated by the discovery of Justinian's Pandects at Amalfi, reduced them into some method in 3 books, which he entitled Concordia Discordantium Canonum, but which are generally known by the name of Decretum Gratiani. These reached as low as the time of Pope Alexander III. The subsequent papal decrees to the pontificate of Gregory IX were published in much the same method under the auspices of that pope, about the year 1230, in 5 books, entitled Decretalia Gregorii Noni. A 6th book was added by Boniface VIII about the year 1298, which is called Sextus Decretalium. The Clementine constitutions, or decrees of Clement V, were in like manner authenticated in 1317 by his successor John the 22nd, who also published 20 constitutions of his own, called the Extravagantes Johannis, all which in some measure answered to the novels of the civil law. To these have been since added some decrees of later popes in 5 books, called extravagantes communes, and all these together, Gratian's decree, Gregory's decretals, the sixth decretal, the Clementine constitutions, and the extravagance of John and his successors, form the Corpus Iuri Canonici, or body of the Roman canon law. Besides these pontifical collections, which during the times of Popery were received as authentic in this island, as well as in other parts of Christendom, there is also a kind of national canon law, composed of legatine and provincial constitutions, and adopted only to the exigencies of this church and kingdom. The legatine constitutions were ecclesiastical laws, enacted in national synods, held under the Cardinals Otho and Otzobon, legates from Pope Gregory IX and Pope Adrian IV, in the reign of King Henry III, about the years 1220 and 1268. The provincial constitutions are principally the decrees of provincial synods, held on the diverse archbishops of Canterbury, from Stephen Langton, in the reign of Henry III, to Henry Tuccelli, in the reign of Henry V, and adopted also by the province of York, in the reign of Henry VI. At the dawn of the Reformation, in the reign of King Henry VIII, it was enacted in Parliament that a review should be had of the canon law, and till such review should be made, all canons, constitutions, ordinances, and synodal provincial, being then already made, and not repugnant to the law of the land or the king's prerogative, should still be used and executed. And, as no such review has yet been perfected, upon this statute now depends the authority of the canon law in England. As for the canons enacted by the clergy under James I in the year 1603, and never confirmed in Parliament, it has been solely adjudged upon the principles of law and the Constitution, that where they are not merely declaratory of the ancient canon law, but are introductory of new regulations, they do not bind the laity, whatever regard the clergy may think proper to pay them. There are four species of courts in which the civil and canon laws are permitted, under different restrictions, to be used. 1. The courts of the archbishops and bishops and their derivative officers, usually called in our law courts Christian, Curiae Christianitatis, or the ecclesiastical courts. 2. The military courts. 3. The courts of admiralty. 4. The courts of the two universities. In all, the reception in general, and the different degrees of that reception, are grounded entirely upon custom, corroborated in the latter instance by Act of Parliament, ratifying those charters which confirm the customary law of the universities. The more minute consideration of these will fall properly under that part of these commentaries which treats of the jurisdiction of courts. It will suffice, at present, to remark a few particulars relative to them all, which may serve to inculcate more strongly the doctrine laid down concerning them.